Tonight we've got a little special treat for you. I am going to build a bench. Not the whole bench. I actually got a lot of it done already. I'm going to show you demo one section of it. All right, so I'm thinking about making this bench, and I took a measurement of the bench that we were working out on yesterday, and the typical weight bench is just a flat bench. It's only about 9.5 inches wide, and it was about 18 inches high. So it could have stood to go a little lower. I think I might put a pad on it. So I'm gonna make mine 17.5 high, 9.25 wide. And I'm choosing that because you can use simply a 2x10 that you buy from, you know, the box store, right? You can get a 2x10 by 8 will be enough to make one of these benches for 17 bucks. And it's just all wood. There's going to be no fasteners, no screws. It's going to break down without having to get any kind of fastening equipment. And when it breaks down, all 3 pieces will lay flat. There'll be no weirdness to them. And I'm going to make this bench 40, maybe 41 inches long. So that's it. And we're going to draw this out, but let me show you what we're going to do. Here's our sketch. Okay, so here's our bench. We're just going to make it about 1.5 inches thick, okay, and say 40 inches long. And then I want a little splay on these legs, so they're going to be something like this. Okay, and then on the other end, same thing. So all this material is 1.5 inches or whatever. I didn't run to the box store. I just ripped some beams that a friend gave me recently, and it was really good. Thanks, Steve, if you're watching. You people are probably going, gosh, does he buy anything? I do. I ordered a lot of veneer from Certainly Wood this week. But this is, I'm going to make this 17.5 inches high, okay, and 40 inches long. And let's come in. These are going to be through mortises. This, if you look at this, if we looked at this from the end view, we're looking at, we're going to use, all the material is going to be the same width. So this leg, looking from the end view, is 9.25 inches. Okay, everything's 9.25. And we've got this angle, so it would be stable. This is the end view, and these are going to come up. Now I debated here, how should these attach to this slab top? And I knew I wanted to go into it with a tenon. That's why the name of this one is called, did we call it making honkin' big tenons? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. I'm glad you went with that. That's what we're doing. We're making some honkin' big tenons because these have to come through the top of this. Let's say from the end view, let's just make a dotted line. They're going to be about like this. You know, well, that's not very good. So this is going to get taken away on the material, and our tenons will come up through. So we're going to have to cut the mortises into our slab top, and then these tenons will go right up through. Now, I had thought about, should I make these tenons angled through the top? And I could have, right? We could, and I almost did that. It would take some careful marking and then chopping and all that. It'd be harder to cut with a machine. But then I thought, you know what, sometimes I know you just overthink it, you know? You just got to stop yourself, say, okay, I'm going to keep this simple. No, I'm going to go square through and I'll cut the tenon after, because I'm so wide with these tenons, it's going to be plenty strong. It still will be honkin' big. All right, so come here, let's look at this now. So I figured out about the angle I wanted. It turned out it was right about 10 degrees. Call it 10, okay? So using this little square on this straight edge, I just took this piece of this straight edge rule to help extend this, and I drew a little mock-up of the joint. And this is what Pug would have done. Just right on the bench, right. Sometimes you do it right on the bench. Then we just sand the bench. That's all you need. So then we go up here, and then we come across, and we've got, we're 1 inch and 9/16 actually. Ours is a little thicker because I dressed it down, and that's what I had. And so I've got that 10-degree angle, or it's actually 80 degrees, okay, right here. And then this is the end of the bench out there somewhere. So I'm coming through with this angle. Now I know I'm going to square vertically after. I'm going to true these tenons up looking from the side view. So this one I'm going to take right from about the base where it goes flush with the edge. So I just took my square and I came over and squared that line up. Okay. Now, here's my angle of my stock. I can only make it as wide as that angle, because if I make it wider like this, I'm going to have a big gap up here. So I'm going to just go here and square down. And that ends up to be about 1/4 inch that we lose off there. So we end up with right at 1.25 inches, say, width this way. We're going to call it 1.25 inches. I have 1.25 inch S. That usually means strong, a 32nd. But that's what we've got, okay? So we'll trim that after. The other dimension we'll figure out here in just a second. But I decided on the board to make this tenon or this shoulder 7 inches from the end. I didn't know. I just kind of looked at it a little bit and tried not to worry too much about it and just said, okay, that's good. So this actually, where I drew that line, is going to be how the end of this looks. That's plenty of meat right there to support this through tenon, right? This is going to just be loose through. I don't care if it's a little bit loose even, because it's going to jam in there when you sit on here. And I just want it to come apart easily. It's nothing fancy, okay? So I'm going to just show you, we'll quickly run through a really fast process, and then we'll move to what I did a little earlier. And I still have to finish tuning up what I did earlier so that they fit in. But we'll have a look at the bench. We'll test it out, see if it actually supports my weight. So here we go. We're going to mark this out. Let's mark out our mortises first. So like we said, we were going to come in 7. So let's say this is a sample of our bench. This is the same stock, 1 9/16 thick, and it's 9 1/4 wide. So let's just go and set our square at 7. Okay, so here we go. I'm just going to make a line across using the square. Now I know I'm going to be 1.25 inches, like I said. So let's just drop that to 5 3/4, and we'll come across again. Okay, now I'm going to come in. I just eyeballed this quickly. It looked good to come in 1.5 inches on each side. So we'll just mark that. And I'll be marking this on both ends, obviously, as I go along. Now I want to make these tenons 2 inches wide. So let's go over to 3.5. These are going to be honking. I don't know. You think that's enough? Do I need more? This is only white pine, but I think it's going to be all right. All right. So this is what we're taking out. Okay. That's going to be our through tenons. That's going to be pretty chunky coming through there. 1.25 inches thick, 2 inches wide, doubled up, and it'll rest on a little shoulder. That's one thing I wanted to mention. If you look back here, if we just went angled through, yes, it would come down and it would sit on this shoulder over here. But this, because there's a splay on this leg, there's going to be a force of it wanting to move this way because of the splay. So by turning the tenons vertically like this to 90 degrees, we create a shoulder in here. So this is going to get taken out. So we're going to have a nice shoulder that will resist that turning out. So technically, you know, it's hard to tell whether it's, I think it might even be stronger this way, even though we're taking off a little material off the tenon, because we're creating a block here that resists the stress of it splaying and taking a little less stress off of the actual tenon with that good shoulder. All right, so once we've got our mortises marked on both ends, it's time to do some mortising. So let's go over to the drill press, I mean the mortiser, and do a little. I had to get creative with my mortiser because this is too wide to use my caul. So I've got a riser block on because I'm going all the way through. Now I would be drilling or boring these, whatever you want to call it, with a hollow chisel, from the top side, so that if I get any tear out or raggedness, it's on the bottom. It's going to get covered by that shoulder, and I don't care. It's just a utility kind of bench, right? But if I was making this for an exhibit, I would, of course, be taking it much slower. All right, so I've got to get creative and clamp this in place because I don't have the caul, and I'm going to just snug it down. And I don't have anything to hold it down, so I just clamped a little rail on the back to keep it from rising up. All right, so all I got to do is keep things organized. Now this takes, I want to, for simplicity, I'm going to be cutting the tenons on the table saw from both sides because I've got the same width. I can rip on the table saw and just spin them around, and I should take advantage of the same distance off each side. So I want to do the same with the mortises. I want to come in a set distance off both sides equally, and then I'll set the tenons up to that. So what I want to do is cut the back wall of each tenon and then come in and cut the front wall, and then I can clean out the middle. So we're going to cut both outside walls with this set. Okay, I'm just going to tighten this in so it won't move. We'll get that back wall. Here we go. Okay. All right. So this is a little more cumbersome than usual, but you have to get this while it hasn't moved. I'm going to use the same setting and bump up against the fence. There we are. I'm going to clamp it down again. Okay. And now we can go ahead and hit the back. Okay, I'll do all four. Then I would reset, move it forward to get the front line. That looks good right there. Lock that in. And let's go ahead and hit the front of this mortise. Okay, we'll just spin it around. So last one, and then we get to clean out the middle. Okay, here we go. Okay. Now I can cut the middle out. I'll just dial back.
Tom, what size bit is that?
A 1/2 inch.
And do you ever find you need to change the spindle speeds to not burn the bit?
No. As far as I know, this is a single speed. It's direct. I should know that, right? But yeah, this is a... It's not super fast. Whew, there we go. I mean, so you see, you could do this a lot of different ways. You could just use a regular drill. If you mark these out really well and knifed around there, you could drill and knife accurately from both sides and then chisel it square. So you can do it by hand, but I would definitely use the assistance. So you get a pretty clean hole unless you drill over a previously. You should always move your sacrificial board so that you're cutting clean, but I did not pay attention enough. I should have slid it around a little more, and I would have always had that outcut supported. But where that is, it's going to be covered up by our shoulder anyway, so saved by the shoulder. All right, so let's go on over to the table saw. Here's another nice thing about keeping it square, is we don't have to angle the end of this board until the end, until we get it all connected. So we're gonna work off of a 90-degree end and just make it long enough to fully protrude, and we'll have that little angle piece sticking up by 1/4 inch coming through the seat. But here we go. If this is, we'll mark one of these sides as the face. So let's say the face is going to be outside, so I pick my best face, and we know that it's going to be leaning this way. So we know our tenon is going to, I'm just making this for reference. It's not accurate, obviously. And our shoulder will be there, okay? So something like that. And you do that just so you don't get messed up when you're marking it out. Say, okay, we know from this, we drew the profile. Now it's time to accurately mark this out. So if I came over, if this line here is a square right to that point, okay? So coming down to the line, this represents the width of our stock. So if I just come down, measure from that corner down, I'm coming down the thickness of one of these sides. So it's 1 inch and 9/16, slightly strong, okay? So all I have to do is get that. So I'm just gonna come over here and just mark my 1 inch and 9/16. I can go a little strong because I'm just gonna take off whatever's long coming through. Okay, now I can get my square and we'll mark this across. Let's see. Oh wait, I'm doing this wrong. I knew something didn't feel right. All right, good. That's good because I actually got that measurement from the inside, okay? So I'm gonna hook this on. Let's do it this way. I'm gonna come over to 9/16. I saw the F marking the face and I thought, oh, I don't wanna be on this side. So here we go. We're just gonna square across. And now we can take our angle gauge, and we know it's going to go like this. Our bevel gauge, you can call it. I'm going to just put my finger there, and that's our angle of our shoulder. Okay? And then we can square that across. Hopefully, I usually try to do a careful job here, but let's see if we got close over here. So now I'll mark it on this end. Just put my finger on the, that looks good, right on the money. So that looks nice, came right around. Okay, so now we want to think about our blade, how it tilts, and which end I want to make these marks on. Okay, I want to do it on this end. So if I take my square, or my bevel gauge, I'm going to hold it on the end now and come over and mark the 10-degree angle on the end. Okay, do you see what's happening now? Here's my face. I'm going to get that 10-degree angle. So here it's going to be, the shoulder will be resting, and now I'm making my tenon 90 degrees from the shoulder like we did in our drawing. Now we have to come over 1 1/4 inches for the thickness of our tenon. This is hard to do with the bevel gauge right now because it's not set in the correct angle. But I don't even need that right now, but I'll just represent it. Because I cut this first when we have the table saw set up, and then I can just come over and make a line. Let's just make it like this. We'll hand draw it. And this will be really all we need. This is the key one here to start with. Okay, so let's go ahead and mark that across. I'm just going to go through these settings on the table saw really quickly. Whether they fit or not, I don't care. This is for demonstration. I already have one that is closer to fitting, and I want to just get to that quickly. So once we have our end marked, there we are. We don't have to mark the other end because we're going to pass it through the saw like this. Now we can come this way and mark for the width of our tenons. Now this is where it was helpful to reference off of each face when cutting our mortises, so we get the same, we can take advantage of that when we're cutting our tenons. So if I just come up right here, that should be identical. I'm going to cut to that side of the line. That'll give me a nice tenon. This is our tenon. So if I flip that around, you'll see if I cut it on the other side, it should be exactly the same. And there I am. I'm almost flush. Here we go. Right there. So we're nice and flush to cut on that side of the line. All right. So there we go. I'm going to just go ahead and cut both of my sides. I need to raise the blade up to whatever this is, the shallower depth. When you're making these cuts, you got to be careful because you've got an angle and you don't want to set your height to the deeper angle. You want to always set it to the shorter, shallower angle. So here again, that's 1 9/16. So we can just drop it. All right, there we go. Let's go through this pretty rapidly. I'm going to use my tenoner as a support for this. So I'll come in here, bring it up, move my fence. Oh, if you want to see making this jig, if it's your first time seeing one of these, we'll put a link to the video. So I'm right there on the line, and here we go. I'm gonna hold on. Okay, so check that out. You see we've got nice tenons. I think those look like they're spot on. Now we want to make another mark over here to mark the other side of the tenon, and we'll cut on this side of the line, and I'll flip it around again, and I should be perfect because we've got the mirror image. Okay, let's set it in, bring it up, slide her over. Okay, that looks good. Here we go. All right, there it is. So just check how we're looking. Looking good. I could have maybe shaved a touch more off of that, but you get the idea. That's how it would go. I'm not going to bother right now. So now, once you've got the widths of those done, and I would have a test piece that I would be checking before I ran through my actual tenons, much like making any chair, anything we've gone over. Now we want to cut the angle, the side angle of these tenons, and then we'll be able to finally cut the shoulders. So to do that, it's pretty simple. We're just going to use our bevel gauge, which is already set to 10 degrees. So we can just come right on up and just lay it over. Now I could look at the numbers here, but I prefer, it's more accurate if you just take your bevel gauge and lay it right against the saw blade between the teeth so it sits flat. So here, I've got my 10 degrees. I'm going to set it on my line that I already made. Of course, I got to drop the blade down again. Let's go down to, once again, we know we're going to be right about 1 9/16. Okay, good. Here we go. Bring it up. Just come outside. Let's touch that line. Let's just touch that line. There it is. Okay, here we go. Okay. Now I would go ahead and make my other side cut. So I know these mortises ended up being 1 1/4 inches. So, and I already marked this, if you remember, to my 1.25" line. So I want to just take that line, make sure it fits nicely. And again, this would be a test setup type thing. But I'm going to use my sacrificial board to get it off my fence a little bit so I don't cut into my tenoning. I'm making this kind of steep angle cut that goes off of the board at the bottom, you can see. So let's just move that over. And this way we create a nice parallel 1.25" wide tenon at 10-degree angle. Here we go. I can raise, I won't bother raising the blade. Here we go. Okay, and this is where it gets a little fun. We have to make the shoulder angle cut now. So we're going to actually lay it down and say, okay, I'm going to reference off the fence here. So I've got my angle already set. I don't want to change the angle to cut the shoulder. Everything will come out beautifully if I just keep it right there. Move my fence to the other side of the blade, like this. And I'm going to drop down the blade now to whatever this offset is. It's going to be a good 1/4 inch, a little more than 1/4. All right, so there it is. It's set up. I'm going to reference off the fence. See, I've got my 10-degree. So it's going to end up giving me a perfect 90-degree angle corner in here because this was laid over at 10 degrees and now this one is. So we end up, because we cut vertically, then we cutting this one, laying down 90-degree difference from the table, but we haven't changed the angle of the blade. So we end up with a net 90-degree corner in there. And that's one of the tricks to simplifying compound joinery. Okay, so there's that. Now, lastly, I would just, for accuracy's sake, I'm going to clean these up between these tenons with a chisel. And I have no reference point in the back here. This line is not accurate. So I'm going to make a scoring cut in the back by using my knife. So I'm just going to hold my knife right there on that shoulder and knife across. Okay, that's my actual shoulder right there. So I want to set the saw blade right to this knife line on this side and just score this a little bit. So I'll just move my fence to the other side. Drop it down. I just want a very light cut. That'll give me a nice accurate shoulder to pair to. There we are. And there you could set this up too. Take your time. Okay. So that gives me a nice clean shoulder on the line. Now when I cut between, I've got a nice accurate point. And now it's time to just clean out these sections, the middle and both top and bottom, and we'll be left with our honkin' big tenons and see if they fit, okay? I'm gonna set those aside. Now just imagine we just did all of that on the actual bench pieces. All right, nothing fancy. Look at that knotty pine. And pretty crude. Oh, this was the one I missed when I came through, but there we go. So that looks good. And then I've already started cleaning off this one, but let's take this one, which I haven't done anything to yet, and go ahead and clean it out. So this tenon here, I can chop out or take out with a coping saw let's see, I'll get as best as I can. I'm going to take it down in here. Let's adjust my coping saw. Let's just try this and see if we still like the mortising. Don't want to overcut back there. Nice thing about holding the coping saw is you can hold it at that angle and just make sure you don't overcut. Then on the ends, we've got the knife line right there. I'm going to take my crosscut saw, and I've got the face facing me so I can just drag right along that shoulder and let the saw drop right in on the knife line. How's it going over there? Okay. This what probably I'd rather not overcut it, and I'd probably drift it off a little bit, but that's okay. We'll just clean that flush with the chisel in a second. Same thing over here. So then we just set it on there again. Okay. We've got our saw. I'm going to drop it right in. Nice and light. Let it go. And let it go. Nice and plumb. Okay. Now we've got a little to clean up with the chisel. So bring it up like this. You can pop a quick clamp on the end here. And let's get our chisels. We just gotta clean around this tenon. And then we should be able to fit it in. Just come in here. So just get that nicely cleaned off.
So the bench is one thing, but then all of the weights, what's the plan for those?
I'm cutting down some oak trees at a certain diameter. I'm drilling out the centers. I'm cutting them into wafers. And my Fred Flintstone bench. No, you wouldn't believe it, but I'm gonna take you on a little tour of Ed's basement where this serious working out happens. And there's actually a sign on the wall that says Timber Gym. That's what it is. It's the Timber Gym because, and then you'll see the bench press has two. Well, you saw it the time I showed the butterfly.
It was a while ago. That was one of the first years.
No, I showed the butterfly. That wasn't too long ago. But anyway, we inlaid some bow tie. There's a video back there that shows those
I'll have to see if I can.
weights. We still got that. All right, so
sure.
Getting this out of here, I'll do it in 2 steps.
Past 4 years of Shop Night Live episodes.
Wow, it's hard to believe.
This past month.
All right, now I'm going to go right to the sidewall and hold that angle. I don't want to leave any material here. These are some honkin' big tenons. All right, so we're going to get the sides. And now we can flip it over.
Oh yes, Cam says water jugs could work for sure.
That's just not enough. They're only 8 pounds. I've tried that on a vacation. It doesn't work. Well, it does a little bit, but I'm bringing my, what do they call those things? Solo? somebody can tell me, what are those adjustable plates? I forget who makes it. They're adjustable dumbbells. Soloflex or something like that. But they're great. They go from, I think it's about 10 up to like...
Bowflex.
Bowflex, yeah. 10 up to 50.
Thanks, Billy.
55 pounds. They're great. So you can use them for all kinds of exercises. And I got rid of my barbell. I got the timber gym. It has been nice to start up again. It does make me feel a lot better. Just feel your metabolism go up, and got to stay in shape if we want to do this thing, right? I want to do this for a long time. So that's an important part of it. And that's what we're doing right here. We're making something so we can keep making something. All right, so
Trying to get.
there we go. I think that's all pretty good.
View. Oh,
Oh, sorry. Just want to.
sorry, everybody.
I think I've got that pretty well cleaned off. So now I'll just take it out. We'll take an inspection and see if we can fit these in. While we have the table saw set, I'm going to go cut the angle. See, we've got this angle here, our 10 degree. We still have the 10 degree on the table saw. Let's just go cut our 10 degree to the proper length. We'll set up a stop, cut both of them, and then we can fit and check out the seat. That should just take a minute here. Oh, let's stop right here on the way. Because look, I did another profile drawing on this side of the plywood. So look, we'll set this on here. I'm going to put it right where the shoulder meets the underside of the top. And this height is 17.5. So I've got that right along the line there. And now I can just make a line under here, right on the plywood, right using the plywood as my, okay? That's how long I'm going to be, right to there. So let's head on over to the table saw. I'm just going to do a straight cross cut. I'll cut the angle later. I've got to do it on the felder. So let's just leave the bottom straight. Here's the full angle of this cut. So I just want to make sure I leave it a little long. Let's just go, so this will be a little higher than actual. Not much, but I'll just set it right to there. And that gives us room to put a little stop on the end here. Not much room, but this is all we need. Okay. All right, so that's going to have us a little long. At least we'll be square in the same length so we can try it out. Let's see if we can fit these. Here we go. Let's check this out. See if this fits. First, I'm going to check the thickness. That actually feels pretty good. Now, let's see if it's binding anywhere. All right, it's binding. I can feel this one's a little thick as I go. Oh, no, there it is. Wow, it's actually almost in. Let me hit it with a mallet. Okay, I'll tune that up a little later, but look at that, pretty nice, huh? Not bad. Happy with that. Let's check the other side. This one, sorry.
Thanks.
That tenon thickness feels a little snuggy. All right, let's see, side to side. All right, this one's binding a little bit, so I can see It's a little wide on the edges, so this is where, let me get over here so you can see. I'm going to just take a shoulder plane.
David's curious if you missed the Powermatic.
Not really, David. I did it first, but I've really gotten friendly with the saw stop, and I've kind of gotten, it doesn't feel odd to me anymore, like to set the fence. There's still some nuances getting familiar with it, but overall, I like it a lot. Okay, that's feeling a lot better, but a little bit more for some reason on this one, the outside. And yeah, you know, these are so hefty that I don't care if they're a little loose. They're going to kind of lodge themselves once I get to take a seat, right? Okay. Let's set it in. Okay, just smack it a little. Bang. Here it is.
Oh, wow.
Look at that, huh? Look at those hefty tenons coming through there. Now let's set it, actually let's put it on the bench if we can. And this is where we'd want to get rid of those. We could just hit them with a hand plane, but let me try this. Garrett Hack was here in the fall and he recommended the saw. This saw, I think it was only like 10 bucks. But great little flush cut saw. You can see it's the Craft 145. You can look this up on Amazon. It's crazy. No set on one side. This side has a little set. And you can just let it flex. Okay, I cut into it a little bit there, but I'm going to hand plane that after. But that looks pretty nice when it's flush, right? So let's do this one. I'm going to come around so I don't try to angle it up a little bit if possible. There it is. So then you can take your plane, just skim these. See how they get clear? That one's a little under. I'm gonna have to hand plane this bench.
I can put the saw link in later.
Yeah. But then this end, same thing. Knock these off fast. Okay. Boy, that cuts nice. And then we just hit it. We're going with the angle of the grain here. I think it dropped a little bit, but that's good. Okay, it's going, it's dropping down a little, but that's okay. Let's set it down. First, let me smack that down. Make sure. Let's see how it works. Sweet, huh? Just for a made-up bench, let's sit on it. I feel really confident. I mean, you know, if you put a cross brace under there with a tusk tenon and a wedge like a pin going through it, that would be the ultimate, you know, because that keeps it from spreading and that assists these tenons. As long as you stay vertical, they're not going to break. So that lower stretcher would keep it from going out and really be good. But based on the strength and the angle there, and then that added shoulder that we created underneath there, that gives you a lot of strength. And man, I'm telling you, this is a super strong bench. You can just tell, can't you?
You can tell.
I'm going to stand on it. I'm more worried about the knotty pine. That's not the best wood, but and I am about the strength of the bench. But that'll make for a light bench. I'll tune up those tenons a little more to get them so that they really go in easily. And once we have this, I'll probably break the edges a little. I may put a little carpet pad on this here so that it works better for exercising. But there you go. How about that, huh? For our quick honkin' tenon video. Well, thank you all so much for being here. Remember, if you like this content, please like, share, and subscribe. And also, really, you want to be on the mailing list at epicwoodworking.com. Get over there and get on the mailing list, and we'll just send you information when we have new things that if you like this kind of content, we won't bug you. We don't give away your address, but it's all for the good. And then if you want to really get inside, you can move into the neighborhood where you get free access to all the courses where you can have fun with mortise and tenons like this one.